Well, I'm now joined by Sarah Todd and Rob Sellers. Sarah from Geometry, who is Global Client Lead, and Rob, who is the Managing Director of Grey Shopper. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. I mean, you both work with many FMCG manufacturers. How do you think that Amazon Whole Foods is going to impact them?
Well, I think it's a big disruptive move. I think it's going to intrinsically impact brand building strategies, not just shopper marketing strategies in a sense. And I think that is intrinsically based around the way that you actually create equities and the way that you build things that you want to trigger purchase based on the way that people will now potentially buy products and particularly FMCG products.
So Sarah, from a shopper marketing perspective, is this changing the rules of the game, or are people going to have to just be more sharper and faster in what they're going to do?
It's fundamentally changing the rules of the game. So I actually think the predominant thing is around skills. So clients are asking us for skills with people who understand how to work with Amazon, how to help them understand how to work with Amazon. And then also, when I started in Shopper many moons ago, the focus was very much around how do we create our brand equities, how do we make them really stand out, how can we be seen as the shopper moves up and down in an organised fashion around the store. And the skills we need now to win with shoppers are so immense. We need to understand the purchase journeys, we need to understand the triggers, the motivations behind it, we need to understand where people go, and actually just beautiful standout brand equities are not enough, because often there's no visual language until you've done your search. And so putting those skills together to really help our clients win in that area means you need a very diverse portfolio of talent, and so do they.
What sort of practical steps do you think brands need to start to play in order to either both play with, play against? I mean, this is a friend and a frenemy sort of strategy with Amazon.
I think they need to be really open to trying stuff and take a kind of very Amazon test and learn approach. So have a go at Alexa skills, think about how you can try in that area. Obviously make sure you've got your fundamentals right, make sure your products look great on the digital shelf, make sure you've got your search engine optimization up there with your Amazon A+ content. So do the right thing, but then also think about your other retail partners. How can you create really delightful experiences there? Because not everyone is going to want to shop in the same place all the time. Think about your portfolio as well, and not necessarily having the same portfolio with everyone, because we want to create these delightful shopping experiences.
Yeah, I think just to build on that, there's no way that you're going to fight against the tide of Amazon. No FMCG manufacturer is big enough or has enough resources in order to stop that. So the fact is, like any great wave, surf it, bring it into shore, try and really deeply understand what Amazon are definitely trying to do and build your strategies around that. And as Sarah says, be mindful of the fact that you've already got big existing customers, and it's an opportunity to, they're already being disrupted by the discounters. So it's an opportunity to get closer to them, to innovate together and basically build your strategies around the same shoppers.
And I would also consider thinking about, all media now is shoppable. Look at the fashion retailers, look at the homewares and Pinterest and Instagram. So also think beyond just traditional kind of click and buy, which, at some point perhaps Amazon will fall into that category as we look at these other channels that we have to reach people and shorten that purchase journey.
Well, that's quite challenging for both retailers and for branded manufacturers, because they're not structured in a way that makes that easy to do.
But if they spend time with shoppers and consumers and see how they're looking at that visual content, our phones are getting bigger, and we're so inspired by things, and then think, I'll go back to that later, and you miss these purchase opportunities. I think there should be more innovation and time also spent in thinking about how we can look at these social channels for future shopping, and how all media, in effect, can be shoppable.
Now, you're both seasoned shopper marketing experts. You know the rules of the game. At the end of the day, the suppliers tend to end up paying for stuff because the retailers don't want to. In this sort of new move of having to define, invest more in the digital world as well as the physical world in stores, is that something you think that manufacturers are going to be willing to pay retailers for? Or again, are we going to end up in a slightly new, uncharted territory as to how that's going to develop?
I think there'll be a trade-off with promotional spend to try and explore what we do and try some test and learn approaches with different retailers. So I do think they'll be open definitely to trying things, but they'll be pushing for more media attribution and kind of stronger ROI to justify it. But I think they will be open. Now's the time for them to be open.
Yeah, I think the dynamic where the retailers, the big physical retailers, held all the chips, particularly around data, has completely been blown out the water. The data already exists. Amazon already know more about all of Tesco's customers than Tesco currently do. So they don't hold those cards anymore. To that extent, they have to disrupt the way that they would therefore work with suppliers. And I think it's more than just digital spend and digital innovation. I think it's about the entire trading relationship. And I think it's about a deeper understanding of the role that brands and brand experience can bring to a retailer that's got many more physical points of contact than Amazon do, even after the Whole Foods acquisition.
I mean, can you see different manufacturers getting together in order to work together to do that? Because that's, it's a complex thing to do now.
Look, I think in a marketplace where there's clearly deep disruption, I think banding together in order to protect market share and touch points and shoppers and relationships is a really smart thing to do.
Absolutely.
Looking in your crystal ball, what's the next frontier in sort of digital shopper marketing, as a result of this Amazon move that's clearly shaken people up and given them a different perspective of what retail life in the future is going to be?
I think we're just going to see a lot more personalisation. So brands are going to focus on managing their value and focusing on the right SKUs in the right place, and shoppers are going to not see a lot of brands that they perhaps would have seen if they were physically in a store. So we're going to have to find interesting ways to present them and disrupt them. So the personalisation factor is a positive and a negative. We might miss out as consumers on a whole array of things that might be relevant to us. So we're going to have to try and help brands find the balance.
And when you talk about personalisation, is that as much personalisation in product as it is personalisation in the journey that you give them?
Yeah, and assuming that I always want to buy my pet food in the same way, and I always want to give my pet the same meal, but maybe not, but sometimes yes, but maybe not. So I think we'll have to understand how much personalisation do shoppers actually want, and how much does that actually become an irritation, and that will be an interesting learning over time.
I mean, I'd go a step beyond that and go, I think the big disruption here is shopper marketing has been building strategies around people in buying modes. I think the reality of it is that brands are going to have to start building strategies around robots in buying mode. The choice architecture completely changes. Those fast decisions that we allow our brain to make for us when we're walking through a supermarket aisle are now going to be made for us because we've divested them to algorithms that make those choices for us. So brand owners are going to have to work out how they market their products and their SKUs and their offers to robots themselves. And shoppers are going to have to get used to and embrace a new way of engaging with brands and get used to the fact that some of those choices are going to be made for them, and actually that's not a bad thing.
Well, I think that's both a scary and a liberating way of looking at it. Probably a good place to leave us. Sarah Todd from Geometry Worldwide, Rob Sellers from Grey Shopper, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.